Nat King Cole playing Unforgettable. We hope Viewpoint is not a forgettable situation here. Good morning, Mrs. Busby.
Well, for the sake of our job security, I hope to shout.
For personalities, politicians, and perspectives.
Well, we've got a little bit of those things going for us this morning. Yes, we have.
In kind of a subtle way.
Yes, we have.
Yes. You've got everything under control this morning?
You talking to me?
Yeah, well, yes. You're 51% older in this show.
Maybe not so much.
Did you start out, you had a little levity?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
I did.
Levity,
I did. This comes from a gal who watches us. Now, to qualify this, she's a very good friend of Bill's. Okay, so she always watches on Lincoln Daily News on her pewter. And she sent this.
Yeah, good morning. Oh, she might be watching this morning.
Yeah. Pardon?
WLCNonline.com.
WLCNonline.com. I made a mistake. Another mistake.
Henderson, this program appears from Bangladesh to Reykjavik. You're all over the world. You can go to Paris. You get some friends in Paris or Istanbul?
Would you like to have some friends in Paris?
Yeah, that would be great. If you can hook me up with some.
Well, find somebody over there, have them dial up WLCN online, and they can watch you here. Yeah. Who knows? Mr. Ash might have some competition. Go ahead, Ms.
Oh, this. I think this is a hoot. A man is stopped by the police around 1 a.m. and is asked where he's going at this late hour. And the man replies, "I am going to attend a lecture about alcohol abuse and the effects it has on the human body and social relations." And the officer then asks, "Really? Who on earth is giving such a lecture at this time of night?" And the man replies simply, "My wife." I like that.
Good start this morning. You know, the golfing season getting around the corner. We'll be up here at North Greens pretty quickly here as soon as it dries up enough. Golfers are somewhat unique. They get a little focused on what they're doing, but they're also a little unusual once in a while. Here's a guy that called in the golf course and says, the staff at the golf course says, "May I help you?" And the caller says, "What are your green fees?" And the guy says, $38. The guy says, "Does that include golf?" Sorry, went right by Burgandy.
Maybe you had to be there.
I'm not a golfer, so I guess I didn't get that one.
Oh, it's not a problem. It's not a problem.
All right. Oh, well, we start out with kudos, don't we? We always, Ms. Henderson, we always try to start out, as Mrs. Anderson knows, with a kudo for somebody or some unusual thing in some organization. Well, I'm going to make this kind of a personal thing this morning. We have with us a young lady who, at an early age, has decided that she sees an opportunity to try to make a difference as she sees it. And so let's offer a kudo to Burgandy Henderson this morning for her involvement as we will develop the conversation this morning in politics, and has taken an interest in school issues. As a high school senior, I kind of think that's a little unusual. So
I think it's wonderful.
A little tip of the hat to you, my dear.
Thank you.
So why don't you introduce our guest
If you see
this
something
morning
that needs to be changed as far as you can tell, the only way to do anything ever is from inside. You can't sit outside and throw stones at something and hope maybe somebody will change something. So I do commend you, Burgandy Henderson.
Well, thank you.
That's great. Burgandy, you must be a heck of a girl. I first met you when the National Honor Society from the high school was conducting tours for all the many, many people who came to the public open house at the hospital. And there was Burgandy, and with several of your classmates. And that was kind of fun. That put an additional peak on the open house that day. Thank you for doing that.
The open house was very exciting. It was very fun to do.
Good.
So,
Good.
I enjoyed volunteering for that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, now volunteering, that's a good word, Burgandy. I like to hear people say that because it's very important, not only for whomever you've chosen as the recipient of your volunteerism, but for yourself, because it's really proven that people who are interested in something outside themselves are much more well-rounded and much healthier. And obviously you are, and obviously your counterpart over there, Jean Anderson, is very interested in many things outside herself. We thank you both for coming today. Mrs. Anderson, of course, is the Regional Superintendent of Schools here. And she was telling me before we came in here that the rules and the laws are there if people choose to use them. And my first thought, Jean, was that we should really have you here more often, because I think we're so unacquainted with the rules and how things can be if we utilize the programs that are already set up for us. We should have you here every week.
Well, I don't know if I can work in every week, but I can come one.
Do you have other things that you have to attend to once in a while? Yeah, right.
Put things in perspective, Miss Henderson. I knew this young lady when she was your age and before. So life moves along very nicely here. Yeah.
I used to work with her father for a long time.
That is true.
Well, it's nice to have these ladies with us. We're talking about education today, and I just don't know of a more important subject that people can address, and particularly in these times and days. You know, there's an old saying that the first time you had children, that a little education is as dangerous thing as when you take your first report card home.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
But I don't think these two ladies ever had that problem. They always had good report cards all the way through.
Right.
So there's a difference there.
Right. Well, there are a couple issues that are coming up on the 5th of April. And there were some young ladies going from door to door last Saturday. I was over at my daughter's having a cup of coffee on Saturday morning, and here they came, and they were talking about their presentation on the 1 penny increase on the sales tax here locally that would go for only specific programs for the schools. It wouldn't just be some largest that you'd be receiving and you could say, I think we should all get matching shoes or something.
Nothing like that.
No.
And we want to hasten to add on that 1% sales tax is not inclusive on everything that we purchase.
No, definitely
it's very
not.
important to make that
Definitely not.
delineation there.
And it also is a replacement tax to some degree. I think maybe we'll just sit here and try to look as pretty as we can. Shape up, Bill. And just let you address these kinds of things. And then we have another address we have to make as well.
I'd like to say that as we start the program and have Mrs. Anderson and Miss Henderson discuss this, that if there are folks out there in the Etherland that, in the interest of fairness, as the doctrine has to say, we have to offer those who might be in opposition an opportunity to so say. So 648-5510, if anybody has any comments about this, they want to. Now, just don't call us and tell us we're against it and hang up. You have to be able to defend your position to do that. Go right ahead, ladies. Let's. Who wants to take the lead on this?
Where would you like us to start?
I'd like you to start with the business of there are definitely needs for all these myriad school districts we have here in our area. Having to do with buildings and boilers and pipes and windows and efficiency as far as energy is concerned. If they could just harvest some of that energy from the kids and run their buildings, they'd be much better off.
Yeah.
And it's all got to be paid for. And we are the guys who are going to pay for it. And there's a property tax issue and there's a 1 cent sales tax issue. And maybe you could kind of, the both of you, weigh this a little bit, if you would.
Well, let me start by saying that this was enacted in 2008. It didn't exist before that time, and it's called a facility sales tax because that's the only thing that it can go towards is a school facility, which is defined as a building, basically.
Yes.
And you know, a lot of people, when they think about taxes in schools, they think about administrative salaries, textbooks, teacher salaries, benefits, those kinds of things. This cannot be used for that at all by law. It has to go towards either maintaining a building, upgrading a building, building a building, buying land to build a building on. It can go to technology infrastructure, green technology, energy efficiency, those kinds of things. So it can replace windows, it can replace boilers, those kinds of things. We have one school district, Lincoln High School, which plans to abate, which just means to basically give back, trade off the amount of money that they would receive from this tax in trade for the property tax that they already collected goes towards the fund that would pay for these kinds of things.
I think that's the important point to emphasize, too, is that, number one, 1 cent is not, on the dollar is really pretty minimal.
Most people throw pennies on the ground and don't bother to pick them up.
Exactly. Well, I do. Being
Well, I do too.
Some people say it's cheap. Well, okay.
Money's money.
No, seriously.
But,
it's really important to emphasize that a penny on the dollar, and not on everything like cars, big purchase items like that are exempt, which is a major item.
Yes.
I think we ought to perhaps explore the exemptions so that we make that clear. And I think the fact that school districts, District 404 for one, is going to work within the framework that they can work within to abate our tax bill as far as 404 is concerned. So there's a trade-off there, too.
There is. They had a big project, a 3-year project that they completed, actually, but they were able to use QZAB bonds, which is a bond that was available through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. And so they have already bonded that project, which is why they can abate.
Right.
That's
And
why they can
so-
do that. But our other districts would have to raise their taxes in order to do their projects, and these are projects that can't be put off. We've got several buildings that need new roofs. They're leaking. Chester East Lincoln, for example, is doing a boiler project right now, and they had to go through the regular amendment process. They had an emergency amendment, actually, because the boiler stopped working in the wintertime when it was cold. I mean, it's still cold. Schools probably still have their boilers fired right now. But because there was asbestos in the floor, in order to do this boiler repair, they've had to go up and across the ceiling. So there's all new tubing for the boilers and all new tubes through which the water will flow. An expensive process, obviously, and this money would be very helpful in paying for that project.
Right. Burgandy, you had something you were going to add.
Oh, I was just going to add, because the high school had to take out these loans or these bonds, the sales tax money is going to go to help pay those bonds off because we have already taken that money out. Another thing to keep into consideration is, if you look at it the opposite way, if we don't get this sales tax, then how else are we going to fund all these projects? And the only answer to that is through property taxes or state funding. Now, we've seen that a lot of schools, the state funding is being cut. And so the increase in property taxes would be really the only option that schools would have to look at in order to fund all of these projects. So, the option is being given of, we'll raise a 1 cent sales tax, which will distribute this project of raising money, okay, not just for property owners, but for everyone, including the people that come into Logan County, all those thousands of people that go on the interstate that stop in for gas. It would include those people to help pay for all of those projects and fund those than just raising property taxes.
Well, it's long been stated that the property tax is such an inequitable way of financing schools. Nobody seems to have ever come up with a viable alternative. But property tax isn't the way to do it.
Well, the whole purpose for this law was basically to take over where a state fund stopped. The state used to have a construction grant that school districts could apply for, and I know that Lincoln Elementary District applied for one in 2003 and finally received their payment, and I don't remember how long ago, but it took a number of years. Mount Pulaski applied in either 2005 or 2006 for their addition that they did, haven't ever received the money. The list is still there of districts that applied and never received the
Right.
thousands or millions of dollars that they were promised. And
Right.
building projects are not cheap, obviously, but they're necessary sometimes. Nobody's doing something just for cosmetics. It's all life safety related, or something that has broken and has to be fixed, basically.
Well, you can't just sit on your thumbs and hope that the state is going to come through soon with
It won't.
what money you've been there's no money
There is no money.
Yeah.
There is no money.
So
and
you
this
can't have
this
it.
kind of circumvents. Somebody asked me a question the other night. Can the state get their hands on this? When the money is collected, it goes to the Illinois Department of Revenue, who sends it to my office. The regional offices of education distribute this fund to the school districts. It goes to every school district that has property in Logan County, and we're sitting in the Atlanta area right here. Somebody called me the other day with a question about Atlanta. They wanted to know if the Atlanta schools would get any of the money. Well, of course, what used to be Atlanta Grade is Olympia South, sits right downtown Atlanta, practically. And yes, there are students who live in Logan County who go to Olympia South, who go to Olympia Middle, who go to Olympia High School. Those schools will benefit as a result of this, as will Warrensburg-Latham, because Latham is in Logan County, and students who live in Latham go to that school.
Right.
Alina Central has property in Logan County. I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Will that money then be given to them on the basis of the number of students from this county?
That's
Yes.
correct. The money follows the school. The money follows the student. And there's a formula that I will use based on what they call the fall housing report. It used to be called sixth day attendance. And the school districts, at a certain point, they know who's going to be there, or they have a pretty good idea after so many days at the start of the school year in the fall. They know pretty much what their attendance is going to look like. They put those numbers into an electronic database, and from that I work with the school districts to call out just the Logan County students and process the funds on that basis.
I'd like to digress just one
Yeah.
moment on a personal basis. Ms. Henderson, I find it exciting that a young high school senior would get involved in this process, and not only that, but be pretty doggone articulate about it. What motivated you to get involved in this particular project?
When I was working on my campaign for school board, I was actually contacted by a member of this committee, Crystal Alley, and she asked me, and she said, well, this is what our project is, the 1 cent sales tax. I don't know if you've heard of it, but we'd love to get your involvement. Now, at the time, I didn't know what it was. I was like, I don't really want to agree to anything till I find out more about what this is. And so, after doing some research and understanding how this process works, to me, it was personal, because as a student, I go to that school and those schools every day. Not only did I go to a grade school here in Lincoln, I go to the high school now, and I volunteer and I tutor at the elementary schools. And so I can see the need every day. Every day I see the need that our schools have and how this money is going to affect us. And so when I agreed to this, I truly do hope that the voters will say yes and vote yes for this sales tax increase, because the schools need it. The students need it. They need to have a safe learning environment in order to achieve.
Mrs. Anderson, we need a few more Burgandy Hendersons out there.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. We have been just thrilled to have her as part of the committee. This committee started out as a result of a consolidation study that we decided to take a step further. They decided not to consolidate, but they wanted to band together to cooperate and share resources and ideas as much as possible. It's been going on since late 2005 or early 2006. And this is just our latest foray into ways to help our schools in the area.
Education, as we all know, education is extremely expensive. The alternative
Is more expensive.
is a lot more expensive. A lot more expensive.
Much more expensive.
So we need to remember that. And as we're not asking really for anything, just so to speak. I mean, nickels and dimes out of our pockets once in a while is an easy way to do this. I want to go back now, if I may, Judy, to Burgandy's other hat that she's wearing, and that is as a candidate. Could you speak to that for us just a minute, Ms. Henderson?
Well, sure. I mean, what would you like to know about my campaign?
How'd you come to this decision? I don't think it's ever been
This is the first.
done here in Logan County
Well,
before, has it?
No. As far as my knowledge goes, and I might be mistaken on this, but I think up until this point, Aaron Schock is the youngest person that's ever made it on an Illinois school board at the age of 19. So if I were to make it at the age of 18, I would be the youngest person. So, I mean, yeah, I would. That would be something very different for our county to see. But the story behind, I guess, my campaigning and my wanting to run is kind of interesting. A couple years ago, my parents and I were talking, and the comment was made, oh, well, Burgandy, you could run for school board when you're a senior. And, oh, no, that's just silly. Why would I,
Yeah.
I'm not going to even think about that.
Famous last words, Burgandy.
But, as time went on, and becoming more and more active in the school as a student, in National Honor Society and student government, becoming more active, I realized I could do this. I am capable of running for school board. I might be young, but I think I have every good of a chance as anyone else that would. And then this past summer, my family and I took a trip to Washington, D.C., where I had the privilege to meet Aaron Schock, and I also had the privilege to meet Nancy Pelosi. And
Oops.
well, she is a very nice.
Comments over
yes,
here.
She is a very
Clean
nice
up the floor
woman.
here.
I'm sure.
On a personal level,
Get
she's
the
very
janitor
nice.
in.
On a personal level, she is very nice, and she was very encouraging. She really does want to see students excel and achieve. And so, having the opportunity to meet with all
We
of these,
all want to see students achieve.
yes.
You're going to be running the nursing home I'm going to go to.
So, then seeing that really kind of made my final decision to say, yeah, this is something I want to do. This is something I can do. I'm capable of doing this, so I should,
So you're no
you.
single issue candidate then?
No.
Well, that's good, because single issue candidates can sometimes be not worth much on the rest of the issues. And there are myriad things that face a school
Yes.
board. This 1 penny increase on our sales tax, on not everything, again, a lot of people go to Springfield and Bloomington, or even Decatur and Peoria to shop, just as a field trip, And the sales tax in those places is higher than it is here, period, across the board.
It is.
Do you have any idea what their sales taxes are?
We
I bet
do.
people don't pay attention to that.
No, probably not. First of all, somebody did a little study on what it would cost if you drove to another town to get a $1,500 HD TV.
Oh, right,
And
every day.
There was something like anywhere from $3 to $7 difference in the price. Here, with the sales tax in place, it would be $1,623.75. In the Decatur area, it would be $1,623.75.
Oh.
In the Bloomington Normal area, it would be $1,616.25. And in the Springfield area, it would be $1,620. Now, when you add in wear and tear on your car
Can you drive for
and
that?
the mileage
That's exactly
at
right.
$3.50, whatever it is a gallon, it's really it's a very negligible amount anyway. But we do have the differences. Springfield right now is sitting at 8%, Decatur at 9%, Champaign at 8.75. Champaign County, by the way, does have the penny sales tax.
Do they?
They do. Decatur does as well. Macon County enacted it. Bloomington is sitting at 7.75 right now. But I have a friend who actually works for Denison Ford in Bloomington, and I did not know this. If you buy a car and you live in Bloomington, the city of Bloomington has a 3/4% sales tax on a car if you live in Bloomington. This penny sales tax does not cover vehicle purchases.
No.
So, there are hidden things in other communities if somebody wants to compare things that maybe we didn't even know about. I didn't know about this till I just spent some time with her a couple of weeks ago. Peoria is at 8.25. If Lincoln were to enact, if Logan County were to enact, it would put Lincoln at 8.25, Mount Pulaski and Atlanta at 7.75.
So it would still make us very
Still very
competitive.
comparable.
Yes, very competitive.
So,
Well, the thing of it is, it isn't something you sit down and write a check for, when we pay our real estate taxes.
Yeah.
And admittedly, that's a significant portion of our taxes. But again, the price compared, if you don't do that, is just astronomical.
Well, you mentioned the exemptions, and we haven't really specifically stated what they are. But the easiest thing to remember, if it's not taxed now with sales tax, it will not be taxed with the additional penny. So if you go buy prescription medicine or over-the-counter medicine, aspirin, vitamins, any of those kinds of things, groceries, food that you have to prepare, cars, trucks, ATVs, RVs, farm machinery, farm
Any farm implements.
those kinds of things, seeds,
Or parts
Big
for
dollar
them.
type things,
parts
yes.
for
Yes.
them. If you are the dealer and you are buying the parts, you are not going to pay any more for them. If I'm buying them from you, then yeah, it's a regular sales transaction, and if it's taxed now, it will be. But if it's something that goes into the actual act of farming, it's not.
Who chose the list of things that are going to be exempt?
That's in the statute.
It is.
Uh-huh.
It's an interesting list. Yeah.
Well, little elves down there do strange things.
Once in a while, they have some halfway decent
Well,
ideas.
the
Some
list
ideas
is
that
good
make
in
sense.
that capital expenditures are not taxed, which is a
Correct.
really good thing.
And
So,
particularly,
the
you
rest
know,
of
you
it's
hear
pretty
from people
painless.
that have a fixed income, and they'll say, you know, I'm not in favor of more taxes. Well, of course they're not, because
Yes,
they're very
understand.
limited as to what they get. I mean, we're all limited, quite honestly.
But groceries are an important thing,
But
and see,
groceries
they're
are very
exempt.
important, and so are prescription medicines, and they're exempt.
So the
as well.
seniors aren't really getting nicked, so
No,
to
they're
speak.
not.
So really, the things that are being taxed are going to be things like going out to eat at a restaurant, or fast food, or gasoline, clothing. So it's going to be items that you wouldn't necessarily have to have. You know, they're not have to have. So they're things that you want to go out and buy, you want to go out get a bite to eat, but the things that you have to have, like groceries, they're not going to be taxed.
I think before we go any further, we're probably going to get taxed pretty heavy by Mr. Ashton.
Yeah.
We'll take a little commercial break right here.